Over the past year, we've brought together artists, activists, schools and decision makers for online discussions across the UK to share ideas and actions for a fairer and more sustainable future.
Climate change does not care about impacting people fairly. We don't live in an equal society, and that's something we can change and we can do something about, and we need to.
Climate change is a social issue. Vulnerability is socially constructed. It's not constructed by climate change. But the only thing that climate change does is making these vulnerabilities visible.
We're really calling on governments to step up and provide finance to those countries and communities most affected by the impacts of climate change. They have a historical responsibility as polluters to really rectify that injustice.
I see the climate crisis as something that's so linked to colonialism. It's linked to capitalism and this advancement that's needed, and saying I'm ready to take, I'm ready to abuse, I don't care. But when we start caring and we start learning how not to take and not to abuse, but learn how to allow the world to flourish, we'll flourish and our earth will too.
The evidence suggests we're not likely to tackle unequal impacts unless we solve systemic racism first.
Fuasglach sa bí a dul bhí siosfach fé mar oprathe go dolú rí cairsnachgan. Oid ha gúin an cairsnachgan túsanach cutramach agus fé mar éisteach diwa.
As disabled people, we need to be listened to, and our needs and perspectives and our priorities need to be taken into account to ensure a fair transition to net zero.
The arts can play quite an important role here, thinking about bringing to life issues, visualising issues, and really kind of tugging on some of those emotional components of the decision-making process.
As a woman of colour, working in the climate movement, for the last decade, I've been fighting for basic representation. I think the movement's actually gone backwards. So the reason why I had to work with art was to get people to look at the culture of climate activism itself.
Digital action can help break echo chambers because we all have interests outside the climate movement, and by bringing up climate conversations into our other communities, we can burst the bubble for many people, and we ourselves can learn from differing perspectives, which is crucial if we want new voices to join the movement.
I want to see a world where sustainability is a societal norm. It's actually taboo and against society to go against sustainability and act unsustainably.
Despite decades of economic growth, we've seen no increase in overall well-being. In fact, we've seen rising mental health issues, more loneliness, isolation, inequality, and of course the recent COVID pandemic has really shone a light on the fact that we've got our priorities wrong as a society. So I think creating this happier world requires a shift in values towards happiness and kindness.
Systems change recognises that we can't just change one small part of these systems to solve the problem. In fact, we need to change the whole goal of the system.
As we experience the reality of our already changing climate, business leaders must develop skills to support society in a way that addresses inequality and structural inclusion.
I would say starting by working where you know, so in your local community with your neighbours, your workplaces, and start to kind of cultivate a shared understanding of what these values mean to you and your community in your context, and then try and implement some of those things locally.
As a young person, the endless conversations and meetings about climate change are so frustrating and an issue that I know could have been solved before I was even born. It's really important that we expect action, not more conversation.
Diversity and inclusion aren't the same thing. You can have a diverse range of people in the room. That doesn't mean all those voices are included. But also, inclusivity is not the same as action. And you have to be listening to those voices, not just to capture it on a piece of paper, but to capture it in real actions and push the agenda forward.
My firm belief is that inclusion is not really an option. It's literally just a better way of delivering anything that gives you better outcomes. So as part of this, it is taking a proactive approach to reaching outside of the communities that you work with to understand what they're interested in.
what we've seen is the trend in local authorities declaring climate emergencies and then holding citizens' assemblies to ensure that there's involvement in the communities in decarbonisation plans.
Young people need to be empowered. We will be the leaders of tomorrow, so please invest in us and please listen to what we say.
So I think if we're thinking about whole system change, we also need to think about how we collaborate and bring in all the different players and key stakeholders in the local areas. And we all need to play our part in terms of making sure that no one is left behind.